So I just finished The Last of Us 2, and I thought that it was pretty good. Honestly, I don't know why I'm reviewing The Last of Us Part 2. I mean, it's no secret that the first Last of Us was an incredibly good game. I mean, it was efficient and immersive and had a plot that was very poignant and haunting. But apparently, everybody already made up their mind before the second game came out. I was actually going to do an entire review on The Last of Us Part 1, but I wasn't able to edit it in time, and The Last of Us 2 came out, and I want to review The Last of Us 2 a lot more than I want to review The Last of Us Part 1, even though The Last of Us Part 1 is really good. Everybody, it's been out for 7 years. Everyone wants to hear about The Last of Us Part 2, and I want to talk about it because I just played it. When I heard that there was some controversy surrounding the game, I was skeptical, like most people were, but I didn't read into them and I didn't actually see what they were because I still was going to play the game and I wanted to form my own opinion based off of the final product instead of some rumors that have been spread around about the game. From what I understood about the leaks was that they were mostly like plot based, and that seemed kind of weird and stupid that people were getting like angry over it, because of course if you take plot elements from a game like this that's so, especially like the second game, it's going to be so much bigger in scope that if you take anything out of context, it's just not going to make any sense. It's going to be completely jarring. So the day finally came when I got my super deluxe extra virgin package complete with anime figurine without having the game spoiled for me. So I'll start off with a spoiler-free review, and then at the very end, I'll go over specifics and spoilers.
Do not. Joel crossed a lot of people. I don't see the point in guessing. Okay. At least until we find out more information.
This is the best looking game right now. I know I'm supposed to come up with some sort of counterpoint or critique, but it's just a fact, I think. I mean, it came out after they made Uncharted 4, and that game definitely deserves prom queen, if you know what I mean. So this game, at the very least, needs a Nobel Peace Prize, at least. I mean, thinking back to it, like, there's just so many striking images, like, early on in the game, you're being hunted down, and these guys are going through this abandoned subway, kind of like that one scene in the first game, except it's lit with these red flares, and then they also have the light from their rifles, like scoping around, and it just looked like painted. It looked awesome, and the cinematography was a lot better, if you can call it cinematography. Like, it just looked better. It just looked better. The set pieces were better. There was like a more rich character design.
You think this guy's connected to the girl from the school?
That'd be a hell of a coincidence if it
The gameplay of The Last of Us has never been like outstanding, in my opinion. Like, it's never tried to like push the boundaries of the medium, and I actually think that's fine. I think it would clash with everything else that makes the game so great. Instead, all those naughty dogs decided to sort of reinvent the third-person stealth shooter, which had been done a million times, by like streamlining it into something that was really efficient. They didn't really add too much to the gameplay, but the things that they did add were a very welcome and like very, very useful addition to the gameplay. You can go prone and crawl around now, which a lot of games could do before this, but the way and the animation, how fluid it is really nice. And the fact that you can craft like temporary silencers is really nice. I probably used that like a million times throughout this game. The use of grass to hide and cover. All of that stuff was very nice. And also, it's just the most immersive and brutal combat that I've seen in a game in recent years.
Stay calm.
Holy fuck, Ellie.
The actual score for this game is just as good, if not better, than the first game. I loved how it was never distracting, even though it was given moments to shine in the first game. And in this game, there are a lot of moments like that, but they're more diegetic the second time around. I wouldn't really say it's like better this way, but it was definitely different, while also keeping the same tone as the first game. And from what I understand about the soundtrack, it wasn't all completely motivated by Gustavo. There was also a guy that composed for Mr. Robot, who I could tell made a couple of songs, or at least influenced a couple of songs, like Eye for an Eye, which is really droning and kind of synth heavy, and an incredibly like motivating song. But the most memorable music moment for me in the game was more due to like the context. So I'll go over that when we get to the spoiler section of this. We're not in spoilers yet, so don't leave. But I do want to vaguely address the plot, just in case someone's on the fence about it for that reason. You may have heard a lot of things about there being a lot of like shoehorned progressive elements in the game, and that it ruins Ellie and Joel's whole thing, and that the game like plot isn't as complex as the previous game. And I'm here to tell you that all of those things are partially wrong. I become really skeptical when I hear that a game or movie or media in general uses like the progressive angle to set themselves apart from other games, because it can oftentimes feel really disingenuous and kind of scummy and gross. But if you think back to the first game, like it was kind of refreshing to me in that it actually had female characters that weren't one-dimensional. I mean, think back to like every main character in every video game that you've ever played. How many of them were dudes and how many of them were Samus from Metro? Neil Druckmann went into the game with that in mind. So when I played the game, I wanted to see if it was treated as tastefully as that first game, in terms of not making it like the selling point and just kind of normalizing it. That I am not at all qualified to really speak on this at all, but just based off of how I feel, it was tastefully done. And as for Joel and Ellie's characters, they are both consistent and they stick to continuity. And I have literally no problem with Joel and Ellie's arc. They're both fantastic in this next game. And as for the new characters in this game, they were treated with the same respect as the characters in the first game, and they were given a purpose and backstory, and they're not just complete one-dimensional. They have a little bit of flavor to them.
Nice shot.
Okay, I think that's enough being vague.
Joel, please get up!
Nice shot.
The main two things that kind of like bothered me about the leaks for this game were that people were upset that Joel died in this game very early on. That was leaked. And then B, that there was a side plot with like a transgendered character, and people thought that that was like shoehorned like SJW, that it's more important than Joel's story. Both of these things are just completely like wrong. I do want to make the point that I think most people had a problem with the fact that Joel died in the beginning than the like transgender like side plot. I think that was more just like the loud minority of people who were just fucking awful. So I'll start by talking about Joel. I think people's reaction to Joel's death would have been completely different if they didn't spoil the fucking game for themselves. Even Naughty Dog was like purposefully misleading people with their trailers to make it seem like Joel was gonna be throughout the game. And I think him dying in the beginning was like a really, really powerful, inciting incident. And besides, if the game didn't take these like drastic like unexpected turns that it did take, then you wouldn't be playing The Last of Us Part 2. You'd be playing The Last of Us 2. I guess what I'm trying to say is like if this was like a traditional sequel video game, they would have just like upped the graphics, the gameplay, they would have changed, like upgraded everything about the game, and the plot would have been very, very similar to the original. I know I don't want that, but apparently everybody else fucking does, because when they try to do something different with this next game, it's just met with like criticism from people who don't know what they're talking about, like genuinely don't know how. And I'm fully aware that I'm being too harsh, but I genuinely don't understand the outrage between these two things, at least not to the extent that it has gotten. I mean, really, Joel's arc was finished in the first game, and even though he dies in the beginning of this game, his essence infects the rest of the game and compels it forward. One of my favorite things about this game is how the duality of Joel's character is expressed through Ellie playing the guitar. And this is what I was going to mention earlier as like my favorite piece of like music in the latest game. It was actually early on in the game when they first visit Seattle, Ellie and Dina being her girlfriend. Here's that clip.
Remember that night by the bonfire? Yeah. Talking away. I don't know what I'm to say. I'll say it anyway. Today's another day to find you shying away. I'll be coming for you, love, okay? Take on me. Take me on.
First off, I just want to mention Ashley's performance in this is just being outstanding. Like, she's just so convincing from beginning to end. Loved it. The other thing I want to mention is it's basically just about how Joel teaches Ellie compassion, and it's represented through her playing guitar. So later on, when she tries to kill Abby, more on Abby in a second, and after Abby launches off two of Ellie's fingers, it's the memory of Joel playing guitar that convinces her to not kill Abby. And the ending of Ellie trying to play guitar, but she can't anymore because she doesn't have the fingers, is like so haunting, and it's the perfect way to portray the two paths that Joel inadvertently created for Ellie. He taught her compassion through playing guitar, but he's also the man who turned her into a ruthless, selfish killer. Now I want to talk about everyone's favorite buff bitch, Abs. At first, I hated Abby like everyone else too. I like Joel. She killed Joel. I don't like her. It's as simple as that. That's the point of the beginning of the game, you fucking idiot. But as you play as her, at least I did, I started to come around to her character, and I started to realize that she is a decent person compared to everybody else in this game. And it's kind of like, it's hypocritical to say that she is a bad person, because she's basically just an amalgamation of both Ellie and Joel. Abby was raised in the apocalypse the same as Ellie, and it's her connection to Lev that gives her her humanity back. Sound familiar? And even if you don't like Abby, which I understand, she at the very least makes you reevaluate Ellie and Joel by basically placing a mirror in front of them. So I think if you're gonna play this game, one, have realistic expectations, and two, have an open mind, and you will enjoy yourself. almost as much as you enjoyed the first game, if not more.